Welcome to our comprehensive guide on the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, focusing on the Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process, or CIRP. The IBC was enacted to streamline insolvency proceedings and provide a structured mechanism for resolving corporate defaults. In this video, we'll walk you through the stepwise procedure, key legal concepts, and important judgments that shape the process. Whether you're a law student, professional, or simply curious about how insolvency is handled in India, this guide will clarify the essentials and help you understand the practical aspects of CIRP under the IBC. CIRP begins when a corporate debtor commits a default in payment of debt. At the stage, an application can be filed against the defaulting entity. The application may be initiated by a financial creditor, operational creditor, or the corporate applicant itself. This step is crucial as it sets the entire resolution process in motion. The regulator appoints insolvency professionals who are approved by the creditors. The process is designed to ensure transparency and fairness, with strict timelines and clear procedures for both creditors and debtors. Once the application is admitted, a moratorium period is declared. This moratorium lasts for 180 days and can be extended up to 270 days. During this period, all pending suits against the corporate debtor are stayed and no new suits can be filed. The moratorium provides breathing space for the debtor and ensures that the resolution process is not disrupted by ongoing litigation. It is a critical feature of the IBC, designed to protect the interests of all stakeholders and facilitate an orderly resolution. Committee of Creditors (COSI) is constituted, excluding relatives of the debtor. The COSI plays a pivotal role in the CIRP, making decisions based on more than 66% of the voting share. The committee consists only of financial creditors, as per Section 21(2) of the Code. Their decisions determine whether the debtor will be revived through a resolution plan or liquidated. The COSI's voting threshold was reduced from 75% to 66% in August 2019, making it easier to reach consensus and expedite the process. The COSI approves a resolution plan with the required majority. The plan is implemented. The plan may involve restructuring the debt, changing repayment schedules, or inviting bids to sell the firm. Creditors often accept a reduction in debt known as a haircut. The goal is to revive the corporate debtor and maximize value for all stakeholders. If no plan is approved within the stipulated time, the process moves to liquidation. This step ensures that the interests of creditors are protected and the debtor's assets are managed efficiently. The liquidation is initiated. An insolvency professional acts as the liquidator. The liquidator appoints two registered valuers to evaluate the assets and consolidate, verify, admit, and determine creditor claims. The IBC prohibits the sale of the corporate debtor's property to any person ineligible to be a resolution applicant. Proceeds from asset sales are distributed in a specific order: insolvency resolution costs, secured creditors, dues to workers and employees, unsecured creditors, government dues, priority shareholders, and finally equity shareholders. Supreme Court has clarified the distinction between Section 7 and Section 9 of the IBC. Section 7 deals with financial creditors, who can trigger CIRP for default of financial debt owed to any financial creditor. Section 9 pertains to operational creditors, who must deliver a demand notice upon default. The existence of a dispute or pending suit can make an operational creditor's application inadmissible. For financial creditors, the application is admitted once the NCLT is satisfied that a default has occurred, regardless of whether the debt is disputed, as long as it is due. Applications under Section 7 can be filed by financial creditors, either individually or jointly. The central government may notify other persons who can file on behalf of financial creditors, such as guardians, executors, trustees, or authorized persons. Depositors and home buyers must file jointly, with a minimum threshold of 100 creditors or 10% of the total in the same class. The Supreme Court and various high courts have clarified these provisions in landmark judgments, ensuring that the process is accessible and fair to all eligible parties. Section 11 of the Code restricts certain financial creditors from initiating CIRP. Specifically, those who have violated any terms of a resolution plan approved within the last 12 months are not entitled to file an application. This provision ensures that only compliant creditors can participate in the process, maintaining the integrity and effectiveness of the CIRP. The restriction is designed to prevent abuse of the system and encourage adherence to approved resolution plan. File an application before the NCLT. The minimum amount of default must be 1 lakh rupees. However, as per Notification No. SO 1205, dated 24/03/2020, this limit has been increased to 1 crore rupees. This change reflects the evolving economic landscape and aims to filter out minor defaults, focusing the CIRP on significant cases. The threshold ensures that the process is reserved for substantial defaults, optimizing resources and judicial time. Applications for initiation of CIRP must be filed before the NCLT bench in the jurisdiction of the corporate debtor's registered office. This ensures that the proceedings are conducted in the appropriate legal forum, providing clarity and consistency in the process. Jurisdictional rules are essential for maintaining order and preventing forum shopping, which could otherwise complicate the resolution process. As per Rule 4 of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy, Application to Adjudicating Authority, Rules, 2016, applications under Section 7 must be filed in Form 1. The application must be accompanied by records of default, the name of the proposed interim resolution professional, and relevant documentation for assignees or transferees. The applicant must also dispatch a copy of the application to the corporate debtor's registered office by registered or speed post. These requirements ensure transparency and proper documentation throughout the process. NCLT, by order dated 12/05/2020, directed that default records from the information utility must be filed with new petitions under Section 7. No new petition will be entertained without this record. Authorized representatives and parties in pending cases must also file default records before the next hearing. This directive strengthens the evidentiary basis for CIRP applications, ensuring that only genuine defaults are considered and reducing frivolous litigation. Adjudicating authority, NCLT, must ascertain the existence of default within 14 days of receiving the application. If satisfied that a default has occurred, the application is complete and no disciplinary proceedings are pending against the proposed resolution professional, the authority admits the application. Otherwise, it may reject the application, but must give the applicant notice to rectify defects within 7 days. This ensures procedural fairness and allows applicants to address any shortcomings. If an application under Section 7 is dismissed for non-prosecution, it is always open to the respondent to file a fresh application. This principle was affirmed in the case of Venus Sugar Limited, VS, SASF. The law recognizes the right to reapply, ensuring that genuine claims are not permanently barred due to procedural lapses. This flexibility is important for maintaining access to justice and upholding the objectives of the IBC. Applications under Section 7 are maintainable even if the debt amount is disputed, provided the amount exceeds the minimum threshold. The exact amount of the claim will be considered at the stage of CIRP. This approach ensures that disputes over the quantum of debt do not prevent the initiation of insolvency proceedings, allowing the process to address and resolve such issues during CIRP. IBC does not envisage a pre-admission inquiry by directing a forensic audit of accounts. The adjudicating authority must rely on records from the information utility or other evidence provided by the financial creditor. This principle was established in Allahabad Bank vs. Poonam Resorts Limited, ensuring that the process is not delayed by lengthy audits and remains focused on resolving defaults efficiently. Section 75 of the Code is a penal provision, postulating an inquiry and recording of findings regarding culpability of the applicant for commission of an offense. However, it cannot be used to thwart the initiation of CIRP unless forgery or falsification of documents is pat and prima facie established. This ensures that penal provisions are not misused to delay or frustrate insolvency proceedings. The initiation date of CIRP is when a financial creditor, corporate applicant, or operational creditor makes an application to the adjudicating authority. The CIRP commences from the date of admission of the application. This distinction is important for calculating timelines and ensuring that all procedural steps are followed in accordance with the Code. The adjudicating authority must communicate the admission or rejection of the application within 7 days. If admitted, both the financial creditor and corporate debtor are notified. If rejected, only the financial creditor is informed. Timely communication ensures transparency and allows parties to prepare for the next steps in the process. Upon acceptance of the application, a moratorium is issued. This moratorium halts all pending suits and prevents new suits against the corporate debtor. The IRP makes a public announcement of the CIRP, detailing the name and address of the debtor, the authority of incorporation, last date for claim submission, details of the IRP, penalties for false claims, and the closing date of CIRP. This public announcement is crucial for informing stakeholders and ensuring orderly conduct of the process. NCLT proceeds with the appointment of an interim resolution professional (IRP), who takes over the management of the defaulting debtor. The IRP drafts a resolution plan within 180 days, which can be extended by 90 days. The IRP may be continued or removed based on the wishes of the Committee of Creditors. This step ensures professional management and timely drafting of the resolution plan. Resolution plan must be drafted within 180 days from the insolvency commencement date. One-time extension not exceeding 90 days can be granted if the adjudicating authority is satisfied that CIRP cannot be completed within 180 days. For startups and small companies, the resolution period is 90 days, extendable by 45 days. These timelines ensure that the process is swift and efficient, minimizing disruption to business operation. Committee of Creditors decides the future of the outstanding debt. They may choose to revive the debt by changing the repayment schedule or liquidate the assets to repay creditors. If no decision is taken within 180 days, the debtor's assets go into liquidation. The COSI may invite open bids from interested parties to buy the firm, and creditors must accept a significant reduction in debt, known as a haircut. To accept a resolution plan, the Committee of Creditors must have a minimum of 66% vote. If the plan is not approved with the required votes, the CIRP process is deemed to have failed, and liquidation proceedings commence. This voting threshold was reduced from 75% to 66% in August 2019, making it easier to reach consensus and expedite the process. Liquidation is ordered. An insolvency professional administers the process and acts as the liquidator. The liquidator appoints 2 registered valuers to evaluate assets, consolidate claims, and determine creditor claims. The IBC prohibits the sale of corporate debtors' property to ineligible persons. The proceeds from asset sales are distributed according to a prescribed order of precedence, ensuring fairness and transparency. Proceeds from the sale of the debtor's assets are distributed in the following order: insolvency resolution costs, secured creditors, dues to workers and employees up to 12 months, unsecured creditors, government dues up to 2 years, priority shareholders, and equity shareholders. This hierarchy ensures that those with the highest stakes and risks are compensated first, maintaining the integrity of the process. Filing an application under Section 7 involves several practical steps. The applicant must ensure eligibility, meet the minimum default threshold, and prepare the required documents. The application must be filed before the appropriate NCLT bench, accompanied by evidence of default, proposed IRP, and relevant agreements. Proper documentation and adherence to procedural requirements are essential for successful initiation of CIRP. Information utility plays a crucial role in the CIRP process. It provides records of default, which are mandatory for filing applications under Section 7. The utility ensures that evidence is reliable and accessible, reducing disputes and streamlining the process. The NCLT's directive to file default records from the information utility underscores its importance in maintaining the integrity of insolvency proceedings. After filing the application with the adjudicating authority, the applicant must dispatch a copy to the corporate debtor's registered office by registered or speed post. This ensures that the debtor is informed and can prepare for the proceedings. Timely dispatch and proper communication are essential for procedural fairness and transparency. Adjudicating authority reviews the application within 14 days, checking for completeness, existence of default, and absence of disciplinary proceedings against the proposed IRP. If satisfied, the application is admitted. Otherwise, it is rejected with notice to rectify defects within 7 days. This process ensures that only valid and complete applications proceed to CIRP. If the application is found to be incomplete, the applicant is given notice to rectify defects within 7 days. This provision allows applicants to correct errors and ensures that procedural requirements are met. The rectification process is important for maintaining fairness and preventing unnecessary rejection of genuine applications. Several judicial precedents have shaped the CIRP process. The Supreme Court and NCLT have clarified eligibility, procedural requirements, and the role of various stakeholders. These judgments ensure that the process is consistent, fair, and aligned with the objectives of the IBC. Understanding these precedents is essential for navigating the CIRP effectively. Interim Resolution Professional (IRP) is central to the CIRP. The IRP takes over management, drafts the resolution plan, and conducts the public announcement. The IRP's actions are guided by the wishes of the Committee of Creditors, ensuring that the process is democratic and responsive to creditor interests. The IRP may be continued or replaced based on the COC's decision. The Committee of Creditors reviews and approves the resolution plan. Approval requires a minimum of 66% vote. If the plan is not approved, the process moves to liquidation. This step is critical for determining the future of the corporate debtor and ensuring that creditor interests are protected. If CIRP fails, liquidation proceedings commence. The liquidator evaluates assets, consolidates claims, and distributes proceeds according to the prescribed hierarchy. The process is designed to maximize value for creditors and ensure orderly management of the debtor's assets. Liquidation is a last resort, used when revival is not possible. Distribution hierarchy prioritizes insolvency resolution costs, secured creditors, dues to workers and employees, unsecured creditors, government dues, priority shareholders, and equity shareholders. This ensures that those with the greatest risk and investment are compensated first, maintaining fairness and transparency in the process. For startups and small companies, the resolution period is 90 days, extendable by 45 days. These special rules recognize the unique challenges faced by smaller entities and ensure that the process is swift and efficient. The shorter timeline minimizes disruption and allows startups to recover or exit quickly. Home buyers are recognized as financial creditors under the IBC. Applications must be filed jointly by at least 100 allotees or 10% of the total in the same real estate project. This provision ensures that home buyers have a voice in the CIRP and can protect their interests in insolvency proceedings. Supreme Court and High Courts have clarified various aspects of CIRP, including eligibility, procedural requirements, and the role of stakeholders. These clarifications ensure that the process is consistent, fair, and aligned with the objectives of the IBC. Understanding these judgments is essential for effective participation in CIRP. Financial creditors can initiate CIRP against guarantors, even without resorting to CIRP against the principal borrower. However, once CIRP is initiated for the same claim and default against the principal borrower, the application against the corporate guarantor is not maintainable. This principle ensures that the process is not duplicated and maintains procedural integrity. The NCLT has no jurisdiction to direct the corporate debtor to deposit any amount to a corpus or for maintenance, which may not be a subject matter of application under Section 7. This limitation ensures that the NCLT's role is focused on insolvency resolution and not on unrelated financial matters. IRP makes a public announcement of the CIRP, detailing essential information for stakeholders. This announcement includes the name and address of the corporate debtor, authority of incorporation, last date for claim submission, details of the IRP, penalties for false claims, and the closing date of CIRP. Public announcements ensure transparency and allow stakeholders to participate in the process. The resolution professional is responsible for drafting the resolution plan, managing the debtor's assets, and facilitating the decision-making process of the Committee of Creditors. The professional must act impartially, ensuring that the interests of all stakeholders are protected and the process is conducted efficiently. Summary: the CIRP under the IBC is a structured and efficient process for resolving corporate defaults. It involves strict timelines, clear eligibility criteria, and a transparent decision-making process. The roles of creditors, the IRP, and the adjudicating authority are clearly defined, ensuring fairness and efficiency. Judicial precedents and practical guidelines further strengthen the process, making it a cornerstone of corporate insolvency resolution in India. Understanding these steps is essential for anyone involved in or studying insolvency law.